So, Bob, when did you first get interested in hot rods?
Well, when I was 12 or 13 years old, me and Dennis both were bugging my dad about wanting a car. And he told us, he said, boys, you can have any car you want. There's three conditions. He said, one, you have to buy it with your money. Two, you have to maintain it. And three, you have to pay for your insurance. And I fiddled with these old cars and get them running and looking good. Turn around and sold the first one and made a pretty good profit on it. And then I told my dad, I said, I need to go buy another one. By the time I got the third one, it was my driver in high school for a while.
Now, let's remind everybody, how old were you when you bought your first car?
I was either 12 or 13.
Wow.
I had three before I could drive them. I'd fix them up, sell them, make a profit, buy a little better car, do a little more work to it, make it a little classier. And by the third one, I had probably the sharpest 56 Buick anywhere in the country because I had put wire wheels on it and all new upholstery and a two-tone paint job, and it was slammed and it ran like a scalded dog. It was an CHP Interceptor. So I had a lot of fun with that and got a lot of tickets and lost my license for a few times. But after that, it was just every time I turned around, I'd find a deal on a car and I'd think I could make a buck on it. So I'd get it and work on it.
So
Just-
by the time you were old, like you were actually old enough to get your driver's license, you had three cars. That was your
Right.
third car.
Yeah. I kept the third one for about a year. And then some guy wanted to trade me a really cherry late model Jeep station wagon. Now, what possessed me to get a Jeep station wagon is beyond me, but it was kind of fun. So I did a little fix up on it, did a paint job on it, and about the time I got it finished, I drove it to school one day, and one of the teachers came out and said, I like your Jeep. I go, yeah, it's for sale. He said, how much you want for it? And I told him, and he said, you know what? I think I'll just buy that. So he bought it, and I had to walk home. So after that, I turned around and bought, I can't remember what I bought next. I've had almost everything that rolls one time or another. Cars, motorcycles, skateboards. I mean, it just, if it rolled, I had to have it. Me and Dennis one time tried to figure out how many cars I had owned in my life. We lost count at about 500.
Wow, yeah.
And to this day, I still don't know. I every once in a while, I'll have a little flashback of a particular car, and I go, damn, I used to have one of those. The only one that well, there's two that I regret selling. One was when I was getting ready to work on and paint one car, I needed something to drive to school. So there was a little tote-to-note lot down on the street not far from us, and it had this old beat-up, ugly-looking thing, and it looked like an old Studebaker that somebody had put a headlight in the center of the hood. So I dealt around on it, and I think I bought it for, it was either $50 or $75. The guy wanted $100 for it, and he said, well, it's got a little problem. The clutch slips a little. I go, okay. So I bought it, drove it home, and I drove it back and forth to school for 2 weeks while I was working on, I think it was a Buick. I did a lot of those. So when I got the Buick ready to drive, I just pulled this thing out in the middle of the yard and put a for sale sign on it. And I had no more than got out of it to get into the garage. And this guy drives up and he says, what do you want for the old car? And I thought, maybe I could make a killing on this. I think I told him $500. And at that time, $500 would buy you a 12, 14-year-old car. He said, I'll be right back to get it. So I thought, yeah, right.
So wait, you paid like 50 or 75 bucks and you turned around and sold it like almost immediately. 500. That's
and
good.
all I did was drive it and scuff the clutch. All it needed to be done, the clutch had got glazed from sitting around, and I pulled it up against a tree and dumped the clutch while it was tacking. It scared off the clutch, and it drove fine. It had its little problems. But I wasn't about to start working on that motor because it looked like a modified Corvair out of the thing. It was strange looking. I finally discovered it wasn't a Studebaker, but I really didn't sure what I had. Well, come to find out, after this guy bought it for $500, he immediately took it down to somebody he knew and got $4,000 for it.
Are you serious?
Yeah, it was a Tucker.
What's a Tucker?
There was only 10 of them ever built.
Oh my God.
And
Oh.
they were innovative to the 10th degree. The motor was actually a modified helicopter motor, and it had things like flush mount doors that lapped over the top, and just all kinds of safety features and everything else. But Tucker was a new boy on the block with the automotive industry, but the cars were so far ahead of themselves that they doing things back then that it was 49 and 50. They were doing things that wasn't done on other cars until the 70s and 80s. So I knew it was a weird car, but I didn't know anything about Tucker. And when I found out how rare it was, I just about kicked myself a million times. And to make salt on my wound, my dad come home one afternoon and he looked around and he said, "Where's the Tucker?" And I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "You know that car you had, the Tucker." I said, "Well, I just sold it. I think I stuck a fat hog. I got $500 for it." He said, "Son, you're going to have a rude awakening." So now I play with cheap toys.